with Luke,
What's up?
and we are struggling through this whole live podcast thing. This is the second time we tried this, and it's the second time it has not worked out super well. I'm not sure if we're gonna get to see the comments or not because we're on phones because I don't know. I guess I'm not smart enough to outsmart the YouTube app to make it work on the computer. So, but we're here and we are talking about anger.
Yeah, I think it's a perfect topic trying to get this stuff to work.
I'm telling you, I'm over here yelling at my computer. People are trying to call me, and so my computer's trying to flip over to like FaceTime to answer phone calls, and I'm getting frustrated googling how to get live with somebody.
Yeah, but you figured it out. It looks okay to me. Looks all right.
I guess we could be thankful that that iPhones are impressive pieces of technology these days,
You're right
and
about that.
have a great camera on them, and can get into it. So, but anger is the topic. We haven't done like a straight up topic in a while.
Yeah.
We've been kind of broadly discussing sharing our faith, which we're not done doing that. But we wanted to hop in, and the goal is that in coming weeks we will get the streaming app on the computer to work, and that way we can take comments and questions and stuff as we go, as we're live on YouTube, and interact with everybody. But like I say, I can't. Maybe they'll pop up. I don't know on the phone. I know on the computer they do, but anyway, we're gonna start doing these more frequently because, especially once we get them figured out, it'll be easy to hop in and do them and hang out with you guys and discuss some topics and some different things that we got going on. But tonight is anger, and like you say, appropriately so after the debacle of trying to get this thing set up this evening. We wanted to hit it from a couple of different angles, I think, as we kind of were talking about it back and forth a little bit earlier. You know, one of the verses that is the most convicting, I think, in my life is Ephesians 6, verse 4, where it says, "Fathers, not provoke your children to anger, but bring them up in the discipline and instruction of the Lord." As a dad and as a parent, I don't know that there is a verse that is more difficult on the on the mental than that one, because I am an aggressive person by nature, and so I tend.
You say that, but I don't know if I've ever seen that personally. Maybe someone closer to you, someone maybe in the family, maybe could recognize that or could see that. But I don't see that personally from my point of view, from knowing you at least.
Anger.
The anger part, I have not seen it yet, so maybe later on down the road.
It's in there. I'd like to think I can tame it pretty well. If anyone can bring it out, it would be my son, because he's trying at times. But yeah, it was funny. You know, speaking of that, we were playing disc golf, you and I and Shane, that one time, and you missed a putt from like. It wasn't very far away, and I was like, "Uh-oh, the rage monster's coming," and you're like, "No, I don't have it," but you go, "But Zach does. He'll."
I said at disc golf, I have seen it, but not at a person. That was more about like your own self, being mad at yourself, angry at yourself. So I think that may be different. But I was going to start off with maybe like the point of why are we talking about anger? Why is it so important? And maybe
I may have jumped the gun a little bit on that.
Well, I was just going to say, maybe what are the pitfalls, maybe, or what the reason we even need to talk about it would be in the first place.
Yeah.
And I would say if you can't control your anger, if you can't control your emotions, I don't know if that as a person that, well, the Bible talks a lot about it. We're going to bring it up tonight, but someone who can't control their emotions, outbursts, maybe even anger at point in times in their lives, is something that I believe is a sinful act, and something that we definitely need to talk to Pointman about. And I think it's at least a good discussion for the men that we're talking about in Pointman.
Yeah, I think, you know, when you think about anger and you think about what surrounds anger, so when you get mad, the act of aggression is clearly a human trait that we have, the ability to become angry. But I think it's the need to tame it is so important because of the reactions that come out of it. So it may not necessarily be so much that anger itself is the problem, but it's the way that you interact with the next like step or next stage when you're angry. The
Right.
decisions get kind of cloudy, or you start
Mhm.
to make poor decisions because you're not thinking from a place of of holiness, for a lack of a better term. But
Yeah.
it's very similar to like when we talk about the things that we allow to come into ours, like the things we watch, the things we
Right.
listen to, the things we talk about. If we aren't guarding ourselves from that, then the product of that becomes a problem. And I
Right.
think anger is a trigger that creates a problem a lot of times as well, especially for dudes. For some reason, we
Yeah.
tend to have a an anger issue more
Yeah.
than ladies do.
Yeah. For sure.
At least what I've seen.
Yeah, I've seen it, and just I feel like you hear stories about like all the time. You'll meet somebody in your life like, man, my dad was just a really angry person, and
Yeah.
I don't know if it's so much like maybe that person wasn't angry at the point in their life, but like I feel like stress really brings it out in
Hmm.
men at least. You're trying to take care of your family, and then you got throw kids involved and throw marriage involved and significant others, family members, and then you throw the stress finances on top of it, and it's a
Yeah.
just a recipe for getting angry and people have that reputation of, well, my dad was an angry dad. And so maybe that's something we could talk about of like not labeling yourself as the angry dad, maybe trying to separate yourself from that, and maybe key points and verses that we can use to kind of distance ourselves from being the angry dad or angry husband.
Yeah. Well, I think
Yeah,
that Ephesians 6:4, it's one that like
for sure.
when I get mad at Hassan, that's like the first thing that enters my head. Is like after, and most of the time, I will admit it comes too late.
Yeah,
Like I've already
yeah,
gotten angry, I've already yelled, and
right,
that
right,
then it hits me. It's like
yeah,
chill. But I think
right.
thinking through these things succinctly on the front end, and like
Hmm.
having conversations like this where we are kind of lining out like the pitfalls
Yeah,
of like hostility, if you will.
for
Um,
sure.
Not hostility, anger, and
Yeah,
hostility that comes from that
mhm,
is important, because then
yeah,
well, maybe it'll save that interaction. Like you say, the angry dad. You're no
yes,
longer the angry dad. You take that pause, that hit, and you think, and then you
yes,
respond,
hundred
instead of
percent.
responding out of just aggression and immediacy.
Yeah, I was gonna say one of the verses that I was gonna use. I think we have different verses. I you sent me yours, and so I kind of a couple lists of different
Yeah,
ones. But I want to use one of these first ones that we talked about earlier, Matthew 5:21 through 22.
yeah.
It says, you have heard that our ancestors were told, you must not murder, you must not commit murder, you must not, if you commit murder, you are subject to judgment. But I say, even if you are angry with someone, you are subject to judgment. If you call someone an idiot, you are in danger of being brought before the court.
I like that. Have you called anyone an idiot lately?
I feel like, I mean, yes, I have personally, and I feel like I've read that verse before in your life, and you probably forget. I mean, everybody forgets about verses in the Bible. I mean, if we could all remember the verses, we would just read it one time, and then we never sin again. So I
Right.
feel like it's a good reminder to have in your life where you call someone an idiot. This is the words of Jesus himself. If you call someone an idiot, you are subject to judgment. So I know my life, I've called people an idiot before, and that's something that I really need to work on. Something that it's really struck with me. I know you talked about the same thing as that you've had that same mentality in your life. Like Jesus loves that person too. So like you shouldn't be calling anybody an idiot because you're the idiot for calling them an idiot.
Some people just seem like idiots. Let's just be honest, though. It makes it hard.
You're right. You're right. No doubt. And then, so I was gonna say, maybe that's something that we need to work on beforehand, like you were talking about.
Yeah.
Kind of get that in your mindset where I'm never gonna call someone idiot. I'm never gonna commit murder in my heart by being angry at someone. Just let that pre-decide that before any situation comes in your life, because you're gonna have the moments where you want to burst out and yell at somebody, but you're not always thinking about the consequences, or maybe your wife or your kids, how they're gonna react to that, and to the future down the road of your wife, like my husband is going to yell at me if this happens. And if something's, you make that change, and all of a sudden your wife's like, well, he didn't yell at me.
Mhm. Yeah, no, that makes sense. I was thinking
Well,
about it kinda earlier today. I had a call that came in, like, right when I
yeah,
was leaving the office this
yeah,
afternoon,
Yep.
And I saw caller ID is terrible because it popped up and I knew who it was.
Mhm.
And it's a client I have who's they're just kind of needy, and it's just an
Yep.
annoying conversation every time I pick up the phone and answer it. And I just had to go and wait a beat
Yep.
before I picked up the phone because I knew it was just
Mhm.
going to be like my brain was just not going to. I wasn't going to be able to talk to them and to be
Yep.
the person that I needed to be on the phone with them if I didn't take that beat and take that deep breath. And it's easy to think about that in the process of a job, but it's harder to think about that in the process of our life. Like, oh, the kid spilt something or broke something. And, in your mind, you just want to be frustrated at the fact that it's broken or the fact that it's gone or whatever it is. And we fail to take that beat of
Mhm.
like,
Right.
not that important.
Yep.
Let's move forward with this situation. But yeah,
Yep.
and the idiot plays into that too. There's plenty of times the phone rings and I see it and I'm like, all right, we still got to handle it. Then answer the phone.
And so I was gonna ask you, what do you think, what do you think that you could implement ahead of time that would help you change that scenario, or what maybe tools or tricks that you could use, or maybe point man out there could use
Mhm.
to not just get mad when that person calls, or get mad when that situation comes up where it's going to set you off.
Yeah, the simple things, and I say they're simple. It's really just a discipline thing
Mm.
of starting your day. Read the Bible to start your day. It will set kind of the day for you. Not that the days are all going to be perfect. Not that you're always going to
Yep.
react perfectly, but if you start your day in that way, at least your focus is in the right direction. um, Prayer, all of these things to start helps kind of set the tone for your day as it goes on. The second thing is like whenever you do like call reluctance training or anything, where it's like they train you about how you can hear emotions on the other end of the phone. So it's like
Mm.
anytime you're going into a tough situation,
Mm.
just like when you're on the phone, they say to look in a mirror, smile, like sit up straight, like
Yeah,
fix
I've heard
yourself
that.
so that
Right.
whenever you
Mm.
answer the phone or you call that
Mm.
person, you are in the state of mind of like joy. So you're talking
Mm.
from a place of that emotion. When you walk into a situation, like if you hear something crash in the next room, like maybe sit up straight, take a deep breath, smile, and then walk in the next room instead of just
I like
blitz
that.
it out the door and
No,
try to
that's
see
good.
what's going on or how that's breaking down. It's a lot easier
Sure.
said than done. I think of times where
Yeah.
like something's happened and I have to like go check on something for
Mm.
my kid, and it's just like, or a work issue or whatever it is, and you want to just get it done. You're frustrated so you can get back to whatever you're doing. After we've done the preventative maintenance through our study and our prayer time and that time, it's really just being very conscious of like, hey, you're in control of your emotions. Control them. Take a deep breath and then move into that situation.
Yep.
Yeah, Josh says that that's what they do at their office to train their
Mm. Yep.
people to call too. It works, oddly enough.
Yeah.
But
Right.
resetting your frame of mind when you go into it, and
Mhm.
frankly, sometimes when you're in that situation, you just need to separate yourself from it too. Like, it's okay to be like, hey, we need to stop this conversation. We'll pick it up later. Here's what's going on. Here's why. Be honest with the person. Um, if you're having a conflict with your wife and it's like, hey, this is not a good, we're not in a good position here. We're not having a productive conversation. Let's just stop. I'm gonna go do this for a second, and we'll come back and discuss it with a fresh frame of mind. Sometimes we get
I
really
think
dug in. We just want to bang it out per
I
se.
100% agree with you about like trying to separate yourself, because I feel like in the heat of the moment, you're arguing with your wife or arguing
Yeah.
with whoever, significant other, whoever it is. Nothing that you're going to say or they're going to say in the heat of the moment is going to make it better. No,
No.
there's no. Both of you are mad. Whatever your thoughts are, you're not going to change hers. She's not going to change yours. So you might as well just separate yourself for a little bit. And I think that's where Ephesians 4 26 comes into play. It says, don't sin by letting your anger control you. I think exactly
Yeah,
what you were
yeah.
just talking about. Don't let it control you. Don't let it overtake you and become that anger. Don't let the sun go down while you are still angry. I know that might be a second point,
Yeah, that's
but
that like don't go to bed angry thing.
yes,
Yeah.
yes, and I feel like people have kind of twisted that, and like the old saying is, don't let the sun go down when you go to bed. Like that's in the Bible. That's Ephesians 4:26. Don't
Mhm.
go to bed while you're still angry because it can get a foothold. I feel like that's something we can be part of what I was kind of going with that at first is like knowing ahead of time, I'm gonna fight. If me and my wife fight, I'm gonna separate. Say, hey, babe, I love you. In this moment right now, I just need like 10
Yeah.
minutes, and just separate yourself from that, and then come back and have a normal conversation. Usually, you're not gonna say I'm sorry while you're fighting, but as soon as you get that 10 minutes in, you're like, man, I said some stuff I shouldn't have. I'm sorry. Almost every single time, she's gonna say I'm sorry as well. I don't know
Yeah,
if you've.
you just said that. It's okay for you to apologize too, dude. Like,
Yep.
when you
Yes.
recognize that you've screwed up, it
Yep.
doesn't really help with your anger, but like, hey, it's okay to say I'm sorry that I shouldn't have said what I said. Even, I mean, like, own it. Man up,
Yep.
own it. Um, let them know that hey, you shouldn't have done what you did too. It doesn't
Yep.
really, not really what we're talking about, but I think it's important
No, I think
to
that's a
add
really
in
good
there.
point. I think a really good point, and like in the heat of the moment, no one's going to say that. No one's going to be in why the angers are flared up. Nobody's going to say I'm sorry. But as soon as you separate yourself, and then you're going to say you're sorry, both of you are going to be like, I regret being angry. I was hungry. We could talk
Yeah,
about that point too. We
yeah.
could talk about the being the
Inject
hangry
yourself when you're
point. I don't.
hungry. What's the Snickers commercial?
Yeah, I feel like that's something that whoever, if you're married out there watching this, when your wife gets a little hungry, tempers can flare. Like, hey, let's go grab some
In my
food.
house,
Let's go
it's me. It's when I get hungry. That's the
when you
problem.
get hungry.
It's not when my wife gets hungry.
Yeah,
It's when I
so
haven't eaten in a little while.
let's
Yeah,
grab a Snickers, and then we'll start this conversation back up.
yeah. It's super easy. I think too, especially guys who are very like goal driven and
Yeah.
focused. Anything that gets, I know I struggle with this at times. Like if I'm working on a project and I want to get something done, I work from home a lot of times. And so, like,
Mm.
I'll work at night or I'll work on the weekend at times whenever I have stuff going on. And like during those times, my whole family's here. So if something blows up, it's like a compounding
Extra,
frustration
yeah,
because I'm already
right.
trying to finalize this project. It was the same way, like whenever I was an athlete and I would be working out or training or whatever it was. If
Mm.
like my kid came in and was just blowing the house up, then it would be the most frustrating thing, and I would just lose
Mm.
it because I'm already like
Yeah.
I'm frustrated because I'm in a stressful environment doing the stressful
Mhm.
thing, and then add on the fact that there's this frustration point that's causing hostility and anger to bubble up
Yeah.
inside. You have to separate the two at times, and it's hard to do, but you have to be able to focus. Like, hey, I'm doing this thing. Um, they don't have a connection to it. Like, you're on a mission to accomplish this task. You have to recognize that the other people in your life, those people, your family, your coworkers, even at times, or your friends, they may frustrate you because they don't see the vision of the thing that you're working towards. And so you're stressed about this point, and anytime they interject, it becomes a problem to you. You have to be able to separate yourself and be like, they don't get it. I have to handle this situation differently. I can't mount my stress
Mm.
and frustration from this point, this training, this work, whatever it is, on them. I have to stop, pause, and reset it to
Yep.
go have these tough conversations with
Mm.
them.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna bring up. Is like I feel like a fight with a coworker is a little bit different than a fight with your family. Like a
Yeah,
fight with your family is a little bit more intense, but I feel like you can have those outbursts like while you're at work. And if someone might maybe even label you as like that person who's hot tempered, I do have a verse for that as well. I don't know if you want me to go ahead and share it.
sure.
It's Proverbs 22:24 through 25. That says, don't befriend angry people or associate with hot tempered people. You will learn to be like them and endanger your soul. So I feel like if you know that you're going to be angry at work, people shouldn't be your friend. That's what the Bible says. Proverbs and Solomon, the wisest person who ever lived, wrote that. And so he knows that people are going to be angry around you. And you're not supposed to really associate with those type of people. So don't be that person, or people really shouldn't even really hang out with you.
I mean, you definitely, if you're, if you're working with someone who is hot tempered and hard to handle,
Yep.
it is not productive for anybody involved.
No.
You don't, and that makes sense because
Yep.
your productivity's slowed to halt. Um, Teams don't build around those people,
Nope.
so you can't. So yeah, for it to say to not befriend them, that's interesting. That's that
Yep.
blunt. I love when the Bible is so just like, here it is.
Yep.
Like there's no, it
Yep.
gives you that directive like that. Like just don't even know them.
Yeah, it's like think about it from like the point where he's saying don't befriend that person, but you can also think about it the other way is like they're not going to be your friend either. So like
Yeah,
either which way, you shouldn't be friends with people who are mad, angry, and just hot headed all the time. People because you're going to start becoming like them. I know we've talked about that on a different podcast about
yeah.
like people that you surround yourself with, and you shouldn't surround yourself with people who are just going to be angry and blatant about it and not care, not try to get better, try to be better about it.
Yeah, you see it. You see it, and like especially if you work in a corporate setting, like in an office,
Yep.
you'll see people become like one another.
Yes.
So, because you spend when you're in an office 8 hours a day every day, you spend so much time with these people. If you're a part of the group that's frustrating all the time or is angry all the time, you begin to act like that person. In fact, you begin to dress like them, look like them. Like you really do
Yep.
begin to take on a lot of their personality and their mannerisms. Um, but the people who are productive and are focused, you also see those people become like those people, and
Yep.
they're very much like involved in the the forward momentum of the mission or whatever it is that you're working on.
Yep.
Um, so yeah, there's so much about like the external influences on ourself and what it
Mhm.
makes us do. We talk about it from a point of media, we talk about it from now friends, and it's something you have to kind of always be on guard a little bit with what's
Yep.
going on and how you're allowing things to impact you. Anger is like there was a day I don't remember what I was mad about. I had left the office and I was frustrated, and it's well documented through the podcast that I love like heavy metal music.
Yep.
Um,
Mhm.
and so I don't remember what I was listening to. I was just blasting it. Like I think I was going to play golf or something, and I
Yep.
was just listening to it, just hammering it down, and I was just getting more and more and more frustrated. Like, it normally doesn't happen, but like in that
Mm.
moment, I was like, "This music is not helping," and
Yep.
just taking that and flipping it and listening to I think it was listening to like Jeremy Camp or something. That's what I
Heck yeah.
turned it to, but it
Yeah.
like it reset my entire mentality, and I was able to like regain my day like through that. And I think that helps a lot too. And maybe that could go in our toolbox that we were kind of throwing out there a minute ago. It's like sometimes you need to change the environment that you're in,
Mhm.
not just separating from the cause of the anger, but also just changing the environment around you to be more befitting of the person the emotion that you need to be putting forth. So
Yep.
if you're in an angry environment, you're in an angry situation, you're being angry, like maybe you should just like step away,
Yep.
change the music, change the TV, change whatever it is that you're doing, and reset that situation that you're in, that setting that you found yourself in, that's caused you to get into that place in the first place.
Yep. So I want to bring up this verse just because we can talk about it. I do got to put my phone on charger real quick because I wasn't prepared for the phone. So let me bring up this verse
Okay.
and I'm gonna put it on the charger real quick and then we can talk about it. But it's Mark 10:14. So some people were trying to bring Jesus some kids, and this was this like bring him up
Yeah.
to the front because a lot of people were surrounding Jesus trying to get a hold of him. And it's Mark 10:14. It says, when Jesus saw that was happening, he was angry with his disciples. He said to them, let the children come to me. Don't stop them, for the kingdom of God belongs to those who are like these children. And so I was just going to see what you thought about Jesus getting upset with his disciples about bringing kids to him and how he could possibly use anger in a good way? Question mark. So I charge my phone. Be right back.
Yeah. While you're doing
Yep.
that, yeah, I don't think we would have the human emotion of anger if there wasn't a positive outlet for it. I think the way that we direct it, the way that we utilize it could be the problem. I think the outcomes of it have to be very cautious with them. But I think, when you look at things like competitive nature, I think is akin to anger. There's a deep seated like want and drive that I think comes out of that kind of hostility towards an opponent, that I don't think is wrong. I don't think it's bad.
Mhm.
As if you're playing sports or working through something and you want to win,
Mhm.
you want that other person to lose. There is some
Yeah.
hostility and some anger that's built into that kind of emotional state.
Yeah.
Um, and I think that at times too, when you're trying to make a point, their anger is validated,
Mhm.
um, for tiptoe carefully through this. Um, but I think it's
Well,
validated to make the point that you're trying to make, to accomplish what you're
yeah.
trying to accomplish.
Yeah.
I do think you have to be careful with the way you go about that, the things you
Mhm.
say, the way
Yeah.
you react. If you're someone who gets angry and gets violent, clearly
Yeah.
you have a problem.
Yeah.
If you're someone who gets angry and you berate
Right.
and demean somebody,
Yeah.
still we have an
Well,
issue.
I don't think we're on the podcast because we have all the answers. If we had all the answers,
No,
we
no, no, no,
wouldn't
no,
be
no.
we wouldn't be on this podcast. But I do want to. I think it's a really good discussion point. And there was another story that I was going to tell. I was actually in this Bible study at one point in my life, and people that I had invited to Bible study, and they came willingly and participated in the Bible study, and they were in there with me, and like it was like we had gone on a couple weeks, and I was like, man, I'm really making a change in these people's lives, thinking I'm actually doing something right, making a change in people's lives because I'm leading
Mhm.
Bible study. That's Jesus. It's not us. But
Yeah.
we went on a work trip. This was a long time ago, and that work trip, it was like we were out of town or whatever, and then like all those same people that I was on a work trip with started like just going town, partying, and like doing all this other stuff. And I got like actually angry at these like
Yeah.
people, and I was like, "What the heck?" I don't know what are your thoughts on me getting upset because of these people in my Bible study went out and just went to town on the town. I guess that's the way to say it.
I think you
Party.
answered your question for yourself on the front end
Okay.
because you were already in the wrong frame of mind about how you were impacting those people's life
Yeah,
as that
for
you
sure.
were changing their life.
Yeah,
Were you doing? You were planting seeds and you were helping,
sure.
but if we think that we're the savior in the situation, we're already wrong. So
Right.
when the outcome isn't what we expect it to
Mhm.
be, our anger is no longer
Mhm.
validated either.
Okay.
Because you're still in the same frame of mind. It's like I'm the savior of the situation.
Mm.
Why are they not saved? Like, you know what
Right.
I mean?
Right.
So you find yourself in that kind of paradigm, I guess.
Yeah. I feel like looking back on it, it was kind of like making me like the person who's actually going to help them out. In reality, it's God, and He's going to use those seeds that we use the Bible study for the rest of those
Yeah,
people's lives. So it's something that I got to really worry about. But it really affected me. Like I was like, man, I put all this effort in trying to
yeah.
like help these people out, and all of a sudden they're just going to do whatever they want. And I'm like, what the? But I don't know.
What
That's
about
something that.
anger in a similar situation there? What about
Sure.
anger towards yourself? Like, what if you
Mm,
are in this Bible study and you don't prepare or you don't focus and you're
mm,
not, giving 100% and that
yeah.
person, you missed that person or you didn't
Mm,
have that conversation with that person because you weren't prepared?
mm,
What about anger towards yourself in that moment for not being focused, for not accomplishing or maybe you've done something that you're not proud of
mm,
and you're mad at yourself because you did that?
right.
I think that's an example where I think anger has a valid purpose because
Sure. No.
you feel that conviction, you understand
Yes.
where it comes from, and your willingness to change it or willingness to
Mm,
address it. But I don't know
that's
what your
good.
thoughts are on that.
No, that's good. I think that's really good. You're angry at yourself because you need to change and you haven't changed. So maybe using that anger as fuel to be better
Yeah,
than last
yeah.
time. Make the
Because
actual change.
What's the alternative emotion to feel where a change occurs?
Hmm.
Like, is it sad? I mean, sadness maybe.
Maybe
Like if
guilt.
you become or guilt. Well, I
Yeah.
would say that the times that I feel guilty, I'm angry at myself as well.
Yeah,
Like I
for
don't
sure.
think that they're mutually exclusive there, but I
Yeah.
can't think of another emotion that would drive me to make a change over something in my life like anger towards myself and my situation
Yep.
because I put myself there, you know?
Yeah, that's good. I was also going to ask a question about, well, I know it's just a part of anger. Everyone, I feel like it's just like an instinct, and then like I've heard a study that whenever you're angry and like if you hurt yourself or do something weird and like you smash your finger or whatever, and then you cuss, that it makes you feel better about
Mhm.
it. Have you heard? You know what I'm talking
Yeah.
about?
Yep.
Like it's technically supposed to make you feel better, but I have a verse
It's
for
like
that.
an endorphin release that calms you down.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I have a verse for that. It kind of goes in tandem with anger. I feel like so it's Ephesians 4:29. It's pretty popular verse. It says, "Don't use foul or abusive language. Let
Yeah.
everything you say be good and helpful, so that your words will be an encouragement to those who hear them." So
So
like
are
if
you saying
ever
it's helpful to curse then in that moment?
I feel like maybe for yourself, I was
No,
speaking about like
I was just putting it on you.
I was gonna say like the I know we talked about this with Shane before as well about how he cusses when by himself. You know what I'm talking about?
In traffic.
That one post, yeah, in traffic,
Yeah.
you know, he's mad at himself. But so I was gonna say that using anger in tandem with foul language, I feel like you're always using both of those. I feel like they go hand in hand very easily. And so that's another thing that we can kind of point to is like maybe it's okay to be angry, but then you can also say like, well, I'm going to be using language that is not helpful and that it's not going to be encouraging to anyone that hears it. And I'm going to regret being in this mindset to be angry and to use these words that I'm going to use. And I think our next podcast needs to be about our words. Like that would be a really good podcast topic. That's off topic though.
Yeah,
But
I think that goes back to kind of how we started this, where it's like
mm,
the product of our anger becomes a
yeah,
problem. So if
for sure.
we get mad at something, we start just like the old cartoon where it's just exclamation point, dollar sign,
Yep.
pound sign, like
Yep.
just
Or
running out of
hashtag.
your mouth
Yeah.
the whole time. Hashtag,
Yep.
um, hashtag. Um, but then where you're back into that product is the problem.
Mm,
The anger
mhm.
created the product, but the
Right.
product becomes the issue.
Yep.
I think that's true in that
Yep.
stand. Yeah, the study about the if you, I think it's more of like you could probably accomplish the same thing if you were just like rah! Like you know what I mean. I think it's just the endorphin of like releasing that pain that you
Yes.
just
No, I agree.
incurred. Um,
Right.
which curse words are, that's a different topic, like you say, for another day.
Right. Another day. We will bring it back up. It
Yeah,
is coming back around. Don't you worry. That's worry.
yeah. Um, But yeah, I think that that's really more where that study comes from. I don't know. I haven't. I know I've read it. I know what you're talking about,
Yep.
but I don't
Mhm.
know anything deeply on it.
So I was gonna also want to know if you want to jump back in I think this is a good point about not going to bed angry. The Ephesians 4:26. Don't let the sun go down while you're angry. I feel like that's a
Hmm.
point that you don't think about a lot because sometimes you maybe get in a fight. I feel like I don't know why. I just want to say a fight with your wife. Is that the
It's because you spend the most
and then
time
you go to
with
bed.
stressful issues with your wife.
Okay.
If
I
you had
don't
a
want to.
business partner, you probably
I
would
love
have this.
right.
Yeah, the
I don't
same
want to
type
be
of
like, I'm
situation.
not trying to bash Jason or anything. I love Jason today. She's probably
Yeah.
watching
No,
this right now, but
I think you have the most stressful conversations with your wife.
mm,
So the
yes,
most
yep,
times
yep,
you're going to get angry. When you have older kids, you begin to have
mhm,
stressful conversations with your kids. If you have a business
right,
partner, some of the most aggressive conversations I've probably ever had in my life are with people I was in business with
mm,
or
gotcha,
had dealings with because
mhm,
there's a high stress to not fail in those
right.
situations. But yeah, do you think that's a literal statement? Don't go to bed angry? Because I've
So,
100% just gone to sleep and woken up and been way
right,
better.
right, and so, well, I've thought about that a lot, and I thought about this verse, like, in before marriage, after marriage, and just throughout my general life about like, should you go to bed angry at a person? I say you shouldn't ever have that. I feel like you should have that talk with whoever it is you need to have that talk with. Don't let it fester, I guess, because it's gonna go unresolved. Like you go to sleep the next day, you're gonna wake up the next day. You might feel better, but that whatever you guys were fighting about, whatever argument you had, it's still there. It's the back
Mm,
of your mind and it's the back of that person's mind or that situation, and you're gonna have that moment. And it didn't get. I guess it's just. going to bed with unresolved anger in your heart, I feel like that's what God is talking about. I don't know if you agree with that or not.
Yeah, just when I think through it practically, I guess,
Mhm,
um, like going to, I don't, I have a hard time with the idea that it's literally like, don't go to sleep
mhm,
mad.
mhm,
As much as it is, don't leave something unresolved because it will
mhm,
fester,
yep,
like you say.
right.
So,
Mhm,
like for me, I've 100% been in an argument, gone to sleep, woken up, and
mhm,
then finished the conversation with a different frame
mhm,
of mind, separating,
mhm,
resetting, reframing.
mhm.
I think there's times where, and, with your spouse, it's a little bit different because your whole life you're connected to this person on
Right.
a different level. And so, should you go to bed angry with your spouse? Probably not. Like, you probably should figure that one out and settle that.
Yes,
But, like,
I agree.
I've never been mad at someone arguing with them about something outside of my family and called
Mm,
them at like 10 o'clock, like, hey, we got to hash this out before we go to bed. Like,
yeah.
no, we'll just call each other in the morning and we'll figure it out, you know?
Mm, right. Mhm.
So I don't
I
know.
was gonna look at.
I don't know what I
I
think
was
on
just.
that.
Well, I was just gonna say there's the verse in the Bible. I'm trying to find it, but it talks about like if you have unresolved issues with a person and you're even at the altar sacrificing to God, get up, stop sacrificing to God because it's more important for you to go and resolve that issue with that person than God is saying that I want your sacrifices and I want
Hmm.
um, your burnt offerings. So he's like, I'd rather you get up and go resolve the issue and then come back and finish this. So I feel like it's the same context that God's talking about is like, you shouldn't go to bed or shouldn't go on to the next task in your life or whatever else you're doing the next day with unresolved anger and unresolved just uh, fighting or whatever it is with whoever that person is. God wants us to, even love our enemies. Says that in the Bible. It says, "But I tell you, you love your enemies, pray for those who persecute you."
Yeah.
So He doesn't even the people you don't like at all. He doesn't want you to have resentment to them at any point in your life. Try to resolve that as best you can, even if you are angry at them.
Yeah. It's timely because tomorrow night at the church we'll have Lord's Supper.
Yes,
And that's
that's good.
a very much a part of the self evaluation that we do as part of Lord's Supper is this
For sure.
idea of where, look at where you're at currently and what's
Mhm,
going on in your life. Are there people that you need to go and resolve issues with? Are
mhm,
there things you need to set aside? Um, and that kind of it doesn't kind of, it does go back to that idea of like, hey, before you come before me, examine
mhm.
yourself and let's look at
Yes.
these situations. It's in First Corinthians where it literally says a man should examine himself before partaking,
Yes.
um,
Mhm,
and so in that, it's we when you go before God, when you go into these situations, like you say, if we move to that next stage or that next step, to really to resolve those issues that you're dealing with and those relationships and those people,
mhm.
um, yeah, it's important to do that
Yeah.
before we do that.
Yeah, I found the verse, if anyone's curious, it's Matthew 5:30, 5:23. Therefore, if you are offering your gift at the altar, and there remember that your brother or sister has something against you, leave your gift there in front of the altar, go and be reconciled to them, then
Yeah,
come and offer your gift. So I know I projected up whatever I said earlier, but that's
you're pretty close.
the
Yeah,
actual verse.
yeah. The Luke paraphrased edition,
I
2023.
don't want people to be
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, yeah. L, Li
yeah.
Li Luke. I don't know what you
The Li Luke.
Yeah, Li Luke version.
That's too funny. Yeah, I think anger is just it is a controlling emotion.
Mhm,
Um, it's tough. To misplaced places. I think we find men with anger. Think about
mhm.
like fandom for sports. That's a
Yeah,
misplace, and it changes your emotions. Um, I actually took a 2 year hiatus where I watched no football
really.
because I would get so invested that I would get
Mm,
angry or frustrated, or it would
mm,
change my emotions, if
for
my
sure.
team lost, and so I quit watching
Mm,
football literally for like 2 years, and now I have like a different
mm,
relationship with it where it's like,
mm.
okay, like that sucks, they lost, move on, and it's a
Yeah, well, I wish I could do that because the Hogs right now, they I feel like my identity is kinda wrapped up into them, and they lose, and it brings me down. I don't know if it's anger, it's more of just sadness and despair, I feel like.
it was
Like,
anger for
someti
me, but I
in the
think
game, yes, anger, yeah.
No, it was anger for me, but it was something like I had to recognize. I had to take a step back and be like, I like to watch this. This is something I enjoy, but it's also something that's not good for me.
No, for
And
sure.
like I need to change the way that I view this. And part of that is to not view it for a period of time
Yep.
to get into a
Mhm.
frame of mind where I can watch it and it can be something I do. We were at a game last Saturday. The game didn't go our way. They lost, and like we just walked out
Yep.
and went on with our day. Like we
Yeah.
just went to the next thing we were doing. Like, oh, it was fun. We had a good time for the last 4 hours, but we're on to something else. And so,
No anger. No
not
anger at all.
none, zero. Yeah, just like,
Okay.
oh yeah, we're just on to. I think we went like got some food and went shopping. Like we literally just like walked out of the stadium, got in the car, and went to the next thing we were doing. It was
Mm.
not, but it would be worthless to get angry. What
Yeah.
is it gonna do? Is it gonna ruin the rest of
No.
my afternoon? Like, I
Right.
why do we allow other things to control our life? That's a
Yep.
silly place. Like when we're talking about our wife and our relationships, or we're talking about work and the stresses, our kids and stresses, or mistakes we've made and the anger we show towards ourselves, like that's well placed anger. We need to control it and to make sure that it's exhibited
Yes.
in appropriate ways.
Mhm.
But there's also like those stressors like that where it's like that's just not necessary. Like don't allow
Yep.
the outcome of a game to affect you to make you allow you to be angry or
Yeah. It was,
failing in a hobby
well,
or something like
mm,
that. It's like sometimes
yep.
like we were playing disc golf and I miss a putt. It's like why there's no me throwing something honestly isn't going to do any. It's like the cussing when you hit your thumb. It's like I get like a minimal relief until I have to go chase it down the hill.
Yep. Yeah. No doubt. And I feel like if you're ever in a group, like in a group with people and you're having a great time, I feel like I've heard Pastor Scott say this. It's like you're eating a nice big piece of brownie, right? And then somebody dips a piece of toothpick into a dog turd. Have you heard this
No.
analogy that is used? Dips a piece of dog turd into it and then just rubs it across that brownie. So do you want anything to do with that brownie after that? Even though it's just
Yeah.
barely dipped in there and he rubs it across the top. I feel like that's the same thing that happens when like you're in an awesome situation with a group of people and one person is just like bitter
It's
and
the worst.
angry and
It's
mad
literally the worst. Yeah.
and ruins the whole
Yeah.
brownie. Nobody wants to be in that brownie anymore. Everybody's getting out of there.
Yeah.
But I feel like that's exactly what you were just talking about is like it just kind of brings everybody down around you when you have
Yeah.
that anger. And I don't know, that's just something that I feel like we definitely need as men in our lives need to try to avoid as best we can just for our witness and for our families and for our future.
Yeah. And I one thing I don't think a lot of guys like to play aggression off like it's this natural thing that they have testosterone.
Yep.
Does testosterone create some aggression? Sure. But to just blame it all on biology is
Yep.
just silly. Like at some point, you have to control
Yep.
your own emotions too.
Yep.
Putting in some of those tools and the things in the way, the guard safeguards on your life, so that you're not able to just rage out on people.
Mhm.
Would probably be a solid decision for most people to partake in. So
For sure.
don't give yourself a pass just because you
Yep.
think it's a natural reaction or you're frustrated.
Yep.
And I make sure that you understand the hierarchy of your life too and what's important. If
Mhm.
you're struggling with something at the office, but you're yelling at your kids at home, like I think your
That
hierarchy is
that
misplaced.
that was the next thing I was gonna bring up is, I talked about a couple of people this week about, like, what should I talk about? Talking about well, not this week, today, about, like, what is the main points about anger? And, like, if you something crazy happens to you at work and you just have this madness, taking it out on your family is, like, the worst, like, cowardliest and, like, thing that you can do to your family because they have nothing to do with that,
Yeah.
and, like, you need to go work out, whatever you need to do to, like, fix that, but going home and taking that on your family is just such a I don't know, it's just like, a low move,
Hmm.
I guess, a bad move, and I know we've all been there, we've all done it, I've done it in my life for sure, times where, like, you need to have that switch where you can flip it right before you walk into your house, because if you don't, it's just you're not treating your family right, and I have a good, verse for that. It is First Peter 3:7. It says, "Husbands, in the same way, be considerate as you live with your wives." So treat them right, be considerate. Treat them with respect as the weaker partner, as their heirs with you of the gracious gift of life, so that nothing will hinder your prayers.
Mm.
So I feel like God is saying, take care of your wife, be nice to her, flip the switch before you come home, or I'm not going to answer your prayers. Like he literally
Yeah.
says that, First Peter 3:7, because if you don't treat your wife correctly, God's saying like, "Hey, I'm not gonna answer you're not treating the gift that I gave you right and your family that you gave. So why would I answer any prayers that you're gonna send my way?" I feel like a lot of times people, maybe guys that are listening to this and be like, "Man, I feel like my prayers are just getting stopped. There's like a ceiling on it or something." I feel like God's saying, "You need to treat your family right, and then I'm gonna maybe even listen to your prayers." So I know it's 1 Peter 3:7 if you want to look it up. Don't quote me. That's not my translation. That's the real deal. So check it out for yourself.
Yeah, I think, when you think about that too, though, you're like, if you're angry, where's your prayer life? It's not
Yep.
going to be directed in a way that
Nope.
is moving towards glorifying God and reaching people for Him. It's going to be in a very selfish and self-absorbed type of
Yep.
mode. That coupled with this idea of like, you can't steward what God has already given you to steward in your
Yep.
life. How do you expect Him to allow you to expand and for you to steward the next evolution of your life, if you will?
Yep.
In that, and I think a lot of that's driven out of that product of the anger again, like we've kind of been mentioning throughout this whole thing,
Yep.
where it's like, okay, so if I'm mad, what am I asking for? What am I praying about? What am I thinking about? What is consuming my life? Versus
Mhm.
if I can separate that, like you say, and you're like, smiley face before I walk in the door,
Yeah.
then
Right.
my frame of mind, if I wake up in the morning and I get in my Bible, then that is taking the precedent to start my day. This is like the spiritual smiley face before you make a
Yep.
phone call. It's like, all right,
That's good.
today is gonna be
That's good.
it's gonna be stressful. Let's start with it. It's like the
Yep.
how are you today? Like, that crap that gets you
Yeah.
going. And keeps you. Prayer's the same way.
Yep.
If your prayer life is robust and it's going to be that way because your emotions are that way and you're focused in that way. It can stagnate, I think, too, though, if you're like not paying attention to it, you're not focused on where your focus should be,
Yep.
whatever that may be. Um,
Yep.
you allow those emotions to overrun your life. So, yeah,
Yeah. I would just say, have that switch, be able to flip that switch, because I've seen a lot of guys who are like, will not have that switch, not be able to flip it whenever they get home. And I know I think it's definitely a muscle that you need to work on, to have you be able to like, don't run yourself 100% out. I think this is something I learned in pre-marriage counseling. Don't run yourself 100% out while you're at work. You need to give yourself a little bit left in the tank, because if you just go all out at the end of the day, if 4:30 runs down, you're like, "Whew, I'm just beat to death,"
yeah,
and like you got no energy for your wife or your kids. I feel like that's something that you need to just leave a little bit extra. You're getting close to the end of the day. You're like, I'm not saying like quitting at work or like slacking off, but like
yeah,
give yourself give yourself a little mental and physical, I don't know what the word, left in your tank, so you can take
hmm
it home and be present with your family, and not just, I've had a terrible day at work and I
hmm
went all day long, and then all of a sudden you come home and you got nothing left for your friends and your family and your kids. So
I don't know
that's
if
what I'd say.
it was intentional in my house, but I remember my
Sure.
dad every day before he would come in, he would get out of the truck and he would walk. We had this long, steep hill, and he would walk to the
Mm,
bottom of the hill and get the mail every day. I don't know if
mm.
it had anything to do with him like digressing from the day.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but maybe that's a skill that if you're someone who struggles with this, like when you get out of the car, before you ever go in the house, like just even if the mail didn't run that day, just walk to the bottom of the driveway or walk
Yeah.
over. If you're in an apartment, walk to the mailbox, wherever that is, and
Right.
or just if you mailbox is on your front door, walk to the street and back and just kind of
Hmm.
like breathe, take a
Yeah.
second. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, we talk about work, but I mean, driving home from work can be stressful and make you mad.
No. No
So,
doubt.
you
Yes.
maybe you just need that minute to just kind of like, all
Yeah.
right, now I can go inside. I'm present. I'm ready. But like that,
Yeah.
just practice and the discipline of like resetting and
Mm,
moving to the different thing. They talk about that with
mm,
kids, especially kids
mm,
who've had like trauma and stuff because they don't know what's coming. You have to give them a little
yep.
like lead time to be
Mhm.
able to
Yep.
comprehend what they're about to walk into.
Right.
Same thing for us as guys. It's like, all right, we know we're going in the house and there's going to be kids. It's going to be loud. And there's a lot going on. It's like, well, maybe you need that second to like walk to the
Mhm.
mailbox and back to the house before you walk in. And then, the circus is going on the other side of that
Yes.
door. So maybe that's a skill that we can utilize as guys. Um, like I said, I don't know if it was intentional or not, but that's
That
what
like
he did every single day.
no, I I bet if we ask your dad, that's 100% what happened. But I feel like because you kind of, I don't know, as soon as you become a dad, it's a different thing. If you've never had kids and you're like, oh, I'm just gonna come home and sit on the couch. No, 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 coming home, sitting on the couch.
Yeah.
That's not dad life. You
Yeah.
got to do. But anyway, I think 100% your dad. We need to ask him that to see if that's actually the case. But it's funny because the way you're talking about is like JC sent me I think it was a GIF or Facebook reel or something. She sent it to me, and it was about like the dad coming home, and he was like singing like a happy song, and he was like,
Yeah.
"I got sunshine," and then all of a sudden, like it's pushed to the wife, and it's that scene in The Office. You watch The Office? I don't know if you
Mm-mm.
ever. I know Jake watches it a lot, but
Yeah.
it's like a fire is going on at the office, and everybody's like throwing printers out the
Yeah,
window, and
I've
like
seen
people are
that. Yeah.
screaming and coming through the ceiling, and he's like, "That's what you're coming home to." So like I got sunshine. And then all of a sudden you get home and it's like everything's on fire and everything is
Yeah.
like people are screaming at the top of their lungs and just a mass chaos. I think it's hilarious that you talk about that. And then this week she sent me that gift. So I feel
That is
like
funny.
let's have that walk. Let's take that walk to the mailbox.
Yeah.
Let's go to the gym right before we get home. Do a 30-minute like sprint or run or
Yeah.
work out as hard as you can. I feel like sometimes that's what like I feel like Jace will come to me and be like, "Well, why are you in such a good mood today?" I'm like, "I got the chance to work out this morning, and like I got all that stress and just
Mhm.
anxiety off of me." I feel like that's a that's I mean, it doesn't say that in the Bible, but I feel like that's something that helps me a lot
There's a
to get that out.
theory that the founder of Spartan Race had
Mm,
the reason he says he created the race, other than that it's
mm,
profitable, I'm sure.
yeah.
He said that he wanted to create obstacle immunity in people.
Mm,
So he wanted to if you could accomplish the obstacles in his
mm,
races, then the little things in life wouldn't
mm,
bother you so bad. So if you could accomplish the barbed wire crawl, then when your coffee is a little cold at Starbucks in the morning, you're not angry about the
no,
coffee being cold. Or if you
right.
can, survive 30 miles in the mud in the woods, then traffic on your way to work doesn't bother you the same way it used to.
Yeah.
I think that's true. I think that the stress of life can overtake you if you don't have an
Yep.
outlet to put it into. Being someone who used to run a lot, that was like it was a separator of my life. So I would
Mm,
go on these long runs, and in that moment, that's all I cared about was going on that run. But when I got back, I was able to be more present with whatever the
yes.
next thing I had to do. That's something I've actually had to work on since I've quit doing that. Is like,
Mm,
where does that spacing come in, where
yeah.
things separate and you can have that like resetting of your brain, doing that hard thing, so that whenever you come back, you're a different person. Literally,
Mm,
you're in a different emotional state. But I think the obstacle immunity example is very true. I don't think Spartan races are that hard, so I don't know if
mm,
he necessarily nailed that.
mm,
But I get
yeah.
the idea. If you
Yeah.
just like
No.
walked off the street and went
Yeah.
and did it, sure, it would
Yeah.
change your life. If you train for 10 seconds, you won't have any problem with that. But
So yeah. So the military uses that basic
yeah,
training where
yeah,
they're
yeah.
like, "We're gonna stress you out the most as you've ever been stressed in your life." For 18-year-old, it's true until you have kids.
Oh yeah,
Until you have children, base training is nothing compared to having 2 kids at home. I guarantee I mean, I know I went to Air Force basic training, so maybe a little bit different than maybe Marines or Army or whatever, but I feel like they're, like, trying to stress you out as best you can so you can overcome whatever else is gonna come on you in your Air Force
yeah.
career, and,
I,
that's not the case compared to kids and work.
I
It's
think
really
it's totally. I think it's
awesome.
totally true though. Like I think
Yeah.
if you push hard enough, other things are easier.
Yes.
Like the
Right.
survival mechanism is
Yeah.
not rusty. Like it turns over, and you know how to problem solve better because you've already
Yes.
done the hard thing.
Right.
You've already burned up that like, and honestly, you probably burn up some of that excess energy that turns into anger, turns
Yep.
into these
Yes.
emotions that are unhealthy. Now you can go far enough where it becomes a problem again. But I do think that having exercise and having a healthy lifestyle, nutrition, even
Yep.
if you want to get super nuts and bolts and practical,
Yep.
not drinking alcohol in excess and all of these things too
Yep.
will help control your emotional state if you find yourself in a problem. I've known tons of people who had problems with that
Mhm.
over
Yep.
history, and it's something that guys
Yeah.
struggle with at times. But
Yep. For sure.
well, cool. We've been going for
Cool.
almost an hour. How about that?
How about that? Awesome.
So this was not the way these live podcasts are going to go in the future. We will get this figured out where we can actually use all of the podcast equipment that's around. But this was fun. I enjoy doing it live. We also will get to where we can have more interaction. We saw some comments scroll up, but on the phone, it's really hard to.
Yeah, I did see some. I saw Josh was posting on there a little bit. So thanks, Josh. Shouting out.
Yeah. Leave a comment if you didn't. If you don't subscribe already and this is your first time on, hit that subscribe button before you get out of here. Like, subscribe, comment, all the things. Beggars can't be choosers, but we beg you to choose us. So make sure you do that. If you're watch this before tomorrow night, it is Lord's Supper at both that churches, in Sherwood and in Cabot. 6:30, I want to say. I'm not
6:30.
Totally sure.
Yeah, I gotta be. I'm serving. I gotta be there at 6. So yeah, 6:30.
Yep. So it's gonna be an incredible night. So make sure that you plug into one of those two churches tomorrow night at 6:30 at either Sherwood or at Cabot. And we'll be back. I believe we'll still have a Pointman episode this Thursday. So head back over here to the YouTube channel Thursday at 6 p.m. is when they go live. So check it out. Share it with all your friends. I don't know who'll be on this week. It'll either be Ian or Ben, depending on which episode gets edited faster.
Yeah. We've stopped doing the numbers because we're getting all over with our editing. So
there's more people editing now, and it's all spread out. So it's not in line anymore. Yeah, poor Ben. Ben was on 2 episodes, and he's been on 2 episodes like a month ago. But those just have not gotten edited yet. So
they're
sorry.
Coming.
Yeah, we're sorry for that. Those have not made it to the top of the pile yet, but they will, and they will be out there soon enough. So we appreciate everyone who's been on the podcast in the past, and everyone who will be on it in the future, because we have a blast doing it and talking about things that guys think about, and maybe say things sometimes that guys wish they'd say. So. But well, that's all I got for tonight. Luke, you got anything else?
I would just say love your family. That's what I would say about this. That's something that I got from it. I feel like it's one of the most important things. You got like your relationship with Jesus, and then your family's right there next. And I feel like anger is a big part of that. So love your family.
And if you don't have that focus in your eyes on Jesus, you can't love your family in the way that God intended you to. So make sure that you're right with your faith. You're right with your relationship there. Get in your Bible. Just start reading. Start Matthew. Start reading the New Testament.
That's a good one. It's a good spot.
Just find somewhere and pick it. Start reading. Praying. Set that as a goal every morning. Set your day up. Set your sights in the right direction every morning, with some time in prayer and time in studying in God's Word. It'll change the way that you view a ton of things in your daily life. I promise. You won't regret making that decision every morning. In fact, you will begin to regret the days that you fail to do it when you get started. So that's all I got. This has been a fun live podcast. Tune in Thursday for our normal style of episode, as it'll go live at 6 p.m. And we look forward to that conversation as well. And until next time, I'm Zach.
I'm Luke.
And we'll see you.
See you.